All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and continue this. We're going to do the axo up in this corner. So we're going to do a couple things real quick. We first got to locate the corner where the axo is going to start. So when we look at this shape, we're going to be looking for that spot right there. In this case, normally I would have you guys do the axo math, but I'm going to go ahead and just give you that number right now, and that's going to be 2 inches. As you can see, my drawing's floating a little bit here, but we should be okay. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to locate this point where this view and this view here intersect. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lightly put another little line here, and I'm going to grab a little vertical here, and that's going to give me kind of a little crosshairs point. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize this, if you can visualize this, from that spot to that spot right there. This now becomes a new sheet of paper in a sense, okay? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to locate the middle of this sheet of paper to find our dot, and then we're going to come down off of that point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab my ruler. Let me grab the proper scale. That was an engineering scale. I want to make sure that I'm using an architectural scale. So the architectural scale, I'm using the side that has a 16th, which means that it's a 16th of an inch divided ruler. And what I'm going to do is I'm pretty much just going to put my point on there, grab a 0, and swing it until I come up here. And I have about 6 3/4 of an inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split 6 3/4 in half. So again, when we're splitting these fractions, what I do is I break them up separately. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3/4 divided by 2 is 3/8. So my answer is going to be 3 3/8 of an inch. So I'm basically going to measure back off of that little point, make sure I'm lined up with that corner up here, and I'm going to measure out 3 3/8 of an inch. So I come 3, 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, and I'm going to have a little point right there. From that point, I'm going to actually measure down vertically 2 inches. So I'm going to combine my parallel edge with my triangle with my ruler, and I'm just going to kind of put it on a whole inch mark, and right there I've got 4 inch as my mark. I'm going to come down to 2, so I know the distance between that point and that point is going to be 2 inches. At this point, I can go ahead and erase up some of these projection lines. What I want to do is I basically just want to leave this one little dot is all I'm looking for. The rest of the area should be cleaned up. Again, you guys are using very light guidelines as you're doing this. I'm having to draw a little bit darker so that you guys can see it on screen. But I have this point, and from that point, I'm just going to start drawing my first projection lines. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and draw a vertical. I'm going to draw a 45 this way and a 45 this way. And that's going to give me kind of the starting point of my axo. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that. Pencil on the tip, on the dot. All right, so I kind of have a V and then a line up the middle here. And what we're looking at is we have this vertical line here, we have this horizontal line, and we have this horizontal line here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start breaking in this L shape. And utilizing our sketch from before, what I do know is that it's 2 inches over, 1 1/4 inches up. So that's where I'm going to focus. I'm going to go my 2 inches, and then I'm going to go 1 1/4 inches up. So I'm going to measure along my guideline here. So I'm going to bring my ruler in, put the 0 right here on the dot, use my pencil tip to help me pivot the ruler into place, and I got a little spot here at 2 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and put a little mark. So again, there's my mark at 2 inches, and I measured from this corner to this corner. I'm going to go ahead and draw in a vertical, and this is just going to be a guideline. And now what I can do is I know that that line's good because it's the right length, everything's set for that one. So I'm going to go ahead and actually bold that one in, since I know that's going to be a good line that I'm going to keep from here on out. So there we go. I kind of overshot it just a little teeny bit. All right, so now I'm going to measure up vertically. And again, I'm going to look back at my sketch, and I'm going to go up 1 1/4 inches. So I'm going to utilize my ruler again, put my pencil tip on the corner, grab a measurement, put a little dot at 1 1/4 of an inch. And now again, because I know that that's going to be a solid line and I'm going to keep it, I'm going to lighten up the guideline up here, lighten up my guideline. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bold that line in. So I'm going to go from here to here. And there we go. So I've got my vertical, I've got my horizontal. And now we're going to start kind of pushing these in. So I'm going to come in a 1/2 inch, come up a 1/2 inch, and you're going to see how we're going to generate this side view actually fairly quickly. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a guideline back off of this one because I need to get this line kind of oriented properly. So go ahead and just draw a little guideline. Hopefully you guys can see that, but I drew a line across there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure up from here 1/2 of an inch and put a little dot. And maybe you guys can see that, I hope, but there it is. And then I'm going to measure off of this. I'm going to put my ruler at 1/2 inch. Swing it around to 0. Put a little dot there. So now I've got a dot here and a dot here. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use my triangle again to create like a vertical guideline. So there we go. And then I'm going to use my triangle on the 45 to create my other guideline. So pencil tip on the dot, slide the triangle into the pencil. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bold from that vertical line down to this point. So what I'm going to do is nice vertical heavy line. Come back in here. Nice vertical bold line. Come in here. Nice. Oh, I let my triangle jump up a little bit, so I got a little bit of a booger there, but you can see that I can clean that up. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw that little line across the top with a nice bold line as well. So there we go. We've got our side view of our axo drawn. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start projecting some guidelines off of all of those marks. And it'll make more sense in a second. I'm going to erase up this vertical guideline just to kind of clean that up a little bit and come across. So I'm going to put my pencil tip on the mark, slide my triangle into it, light guideline, pencil tip on the point, light guideline, pencil tip on the point, light guideline, pencil tip on the point again, slide the triangle in, light guideline, and you'll see that we're starting to make it look 3D. So we've just kind of drawn that line, that line, that line, that line, and that line there. So we have a little bit of work left to do, obviously. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come across this bottom line, and I'm going to go ahead and start mapping these in. So if we count these are 1, 2, which equals a 1/2 inch, 1, 2, another 1/2 inch, 1, 2, another 1/2 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure across here, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. And that's going to allow me to get my little verticals in for those. So there we go. I'm going to line up my ruler here. Come the 1/2 inch, put a little dot. Come the 1 inch, put a little dot. Come the 1 1/2 and put a little dot. Okay. So you can probably see those. I got 1, 2, 3. What I'm going to do from this point is I'm going to go ahead and draw these verticals. And again, I know that these are going to be solid, so I can go ahead and bold these in at this time. If you're confident that the line is going to stay for the eternity of the drawing, go ahead and feel free to bold them in. If you're not confident, then don't make them bold quite yet. And you'll see there that that's kind of the start of the feet. So when I look back at that, you know, I've done that, and that. So now I'm going to come back in and bold in the tops and bottoms of these objects. So I'm going to swing this back around. And again, I always put the pencil tip down first. Slide the triangle in just till it taps the pencil. And then I can start bolding those in. Same thing, put the pencil tip down on the mark. Slide the triangle in lightly. Bold that. Bold that. There we go. So I have those. I can erase up the lengths of those guidelines. And I can actually erase those internal guidelines as well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start projecting these back. projecting all those back. And actually, let me start here. I'm going to start here and kind of go vertical, and you'll see what happens here. So I'm not even going to use my ruler at this point. What I'm going to do is just use my triangle to help me kind of start closing this in. And again, I know that this line's going to be here forever, so I'm going to go ahead and put my pencil tip on, slide that in, bold that up, and you'll see that. And then again, I know that this next one's going to be here forever, so I'm going to go ahead and bold that one up. And then I know that that one's going to be going back, and that's going to stay there for eternity. And I know that this one's going to stay here. So I got a couple more lines that I can bold in. Okay, we are getting there. So now what I want to do is I want to actually light guideline back, light guideline back. So pencil tip on the corner. Swing a light guideline back. Same thing's going to happen for this. Light guideline back, straight back. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this. I'm going to count this out. So we knew that this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 quarters is equals to 1 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler again. I'm going to measure back 1 inch. And I'm going to put a little dot right there at that 1 inch mark. And now what I can do is I can use my triangle to kind of solid some of this stuff in. And this is going to come together pretty quickly on this face. So I'm going to put my pencil tip right at the corner, make sure that I'm all lined up. And I'm going to go ahead and bold that one in. Then I'm going to rotate this. And I'm going to swing this one bold until it taps that other guideline. Right? And then I'm going to kind of connect those two dots with a nice bold line. And then I've got a line that's missing here. That line's going to kind of come back to where it butts into a vertical. So again, I got to do a couple guidelines, but I'm doing these really, really lightly, and you'll see what I'm doing here. There's that. I'm going to swing this one nice and bold until it bumps into that guideline. You can see what I did there. I'm going to drop in that vertical nice and bold because now I know that that one's in its permanent location. And then I've got one little segment there, so I'm going to swing this around. And this is just going to be from that point to that point, so I can bold that in instantly. So when we look at this, we've kind of got like all of this area. So the only thing left that we really need to do is this upper point here where we're going to kick in these little ears. And I'm going to do this quick because I'm actually got a minute away from my meeting. So I'm going to measure from here. And if I count this, it's going to be 1 block. And then 1 block, and then it's also going to drop down 1 block. So each one of those blocks is 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to come onto the face of this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and measure in from that corner, and I'm going to measure up 1/4, and I'm going to measure from here down 1/4, and then I'm actually going to measure vertically down 1/4, and that's going to pretty much give me that like ear shape that I'm looking for. So let me get my pencil tip on here. Swing it around, get it all lined up, put a little mark at 1/4. Come up here, put a little mark at 1/4. Okay, so I've got a mark there and a mark there. And then I'm going to measure down, and I'm going to measure down 1/4. And that one there is really hard to see, but it is there. And you'll see why I did that. I'm just going to do a nice light little guideline across here. And that's going to help me lay in where those ears are going to die into. So I'm going to put my pencil tip here and bring it straight down till it butts into that guideline. Then I'm going to put a pencil tip here and slide it into that guideline. And then I can kind of start bolding these things in. So nice bold line there. Bring this one down. Nice bold line. Connect the bottoms of these. And then I'm going to bold in these little top wings. Okay, I measured something off, but I'm in a rush here now. So you can kind of see what's happening. That should have been 1/4. That should have been 1/4. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing those back on a 45. And then I'm going to swing it this way and darken in those little lines right here. And I've got two more little lines here. I got this, I'm sorry, three. So I'm going to bring this one down, bring that one back. And it's really just where they intersect. So I'm going to do a light guideline. I'm going to bring this one bold from this corner to where it intersects that vertical line. Bring my vertical again. And then last but not least, I'm going to go from that corner to where it butts into that. And then realistically, all I have to do is a little bit of cleanup work, delete out some of these, sketched in lines. And now you should have your Axo, and it should be a lot cleaner than that, but you guys will get the point. But there we go, the Axo.